We are live once again. Welcome to another brilliant 12 days of live streams from the Mint Door. We are doubling up today. It is a special day, and we are so happy to welcome Dr. Natanya Brown to the podcast. Welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is super fun.
Awesome. And I think I just said podcast, which this is not the podcast. This is our live stream. So forgive me, but a little bit about Dr. Brown is she is a board certified endodontist and a certified life coach and weight loss coach. And this came up for her because she struggled to lose weight after her second pregnancy. And through that struggle, she figured out a way to lose weight without deprivation, without intense exercise, and without extreme willpower. That sounds like a magic pill that I want to take. So what's super cool is she is now on a mission to share this information. And she has founded a company called Weight Loss for Dentists. And she helps dentists tackle this issue with mindfulness and coaching. So welcome to the live stream, Dr. Brown.
Thank you so much. And you can call me Natanya. That was a very kind intro.
All right. Yay.
Even just listening to your intro there, Natanya, like it just all intrigues me. So wait, what's the secret? How does this work? So maybe some of the answers to these questions are going to give us a little bit of an insight into what you do and how all this process works. But when you look back at this year, what are 2 to 3 habits or routines that have helped you move the needle and really make a difference in your life?
That's such a great question. And as I was thinking about things, I don't know that they're just unique to this last year specifically, but I will tell you 2 or 3 habits that have super helped me this year. And one of them, and these are going to sound really simple. Nothing is really, rocket science, but I will say I constantly drink tea. I drink a lot of fluids, and I feel like it just helps me throughout the day stay hydrated, feel really good. And I think for a lot of us, what can happen, especially when we're in clinical practice and we see patients, is we're running around and we barely have time to think about food, let alone drinking water, let alone going to the bathroom. And I can't tell you how many people I work with, and they tell me, I don't have time to drink water because I definitely don't have time to go to the bathroom. And I always tell people, the vast majority of us are running around our daily lives and we're dehydrated. And that has serious implications on our health. And, not to mention, if somebody is looking to lose weight, water and staying hydrated is one of the best, easiest, and least expensive things that we can do to actually reduce the amount of impulses we have to be eating when we're not hungry, reduce cravings, feel energized, etc. So I'm drinking tea all day long, tea or water, and it just feels great. I really enjoy it. And any one of my clients, for example, they always know I'm taking sips in between sentences. So I'll probably be doing that right now as well. Another thing that's been really helpful for me is to journal my thoughts. And I like to think about it like, flossing my brain. Because what happens is every day, I think pretty much all of us, I haven't met one human that's exempt. We have all sorts of thoughts floating around in our mind, and oftentimes they can be negative. That doesn't mean that we are inherently negative or pessimistic or that there's anything wrong with us. But if we're honest with ourselves, we have a lot of thoughts floating up around here. And when I write down my thoughts, I can really see what's actually happening up there. I can make sense out of it. Or I can say, this doesn't make sense and I don't need to focus on this. It's just a thought that's been floating around. But, you know, when we floss our teeth, we get out all the junk, we see it, and then we're like, ooh, it feels good to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
So writing things down, I feel like it's such a wonderful way of just getting out what needs to kind of come out, what needs to be expressed. Not everybody needs to hear it. Sometimes people do need to hear parts of it, but nobody needs to actually be, you know, it's not for anybody else. It's just for ourselves. And I feel like for me, it's been a really helpful practice to be doing that on a consistent basis. And I really can't recommend it more highly.
Mm. I absolutely love that analogy of flossing. And you're so right. You see so much junk when you floss, and it does feel good. And I've never even thought of that with your brain. So flossing your brain to get that stuff out, that's brilliant. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But that leads me into what we put in. And so my next question for you is, what are some of your favorite books or movies or podcasts that have really helped you in this last year?
I like the way you phrase that, because you're right. It's inputs. We get to choose our inputs, right? And so I love reading. I mostly do audiobook if I can, but actually this year, in the last few months, I have really taken to going back to old school, actual regular paper books. So fun to sit and savor and not like rush through it. So I actually have a couple books that I would love to talk about quickly. One of them was written by one of my mentors. Actually, she's a female physician that turned to become a weight loss coach. And if there's one person that really was inspirational for me in, you know, really being a mentor and giving me that little spark of knowledge that coaching even existed before I even knew it was a thing, it was Dr. Katrina Ubell. And she just recently wrote the book, How to Lose Weight for the Last Time. This may not necessarily be of interest to everybody that's listening, but what I will say, I actually just interviewed her for my podcast yesterday. So I'm really excited to share that with everybody. And that was a real treat for me to be able to, you know, to do that. But one thing that I will say is that for a lot of people that are interested in losing weight, a lot of us think that we need to do so many things and we get overwhelmed by all the to-do list and thinking that we need to remove all these things from our diet and exercise, et cetera, et cetera. And what Dr. Katrina really tuned me into, and truly she was the gateway for me to learning about coaching, was how we can really use our mind to understand our motivators and to understand our level of desire for food, because all of that's created in our mind. And so frequently we think that, you know, well, the pizza's just yummy and I have no control over it and it's just speaking to me. And yet we have so much more control over our experience of food than a lot of us think that we do. So, you know, I read her book and I absolutely savored the pages, because she is able to really concisely and yet thoroughly be able to describe the process of how to lose weight in a permanent way, without overwhelm, without deprivation, without all sorts of kind of gimmicky things that a lot of us can turn to, myself included, many years ago when I was struggling with weight. It's very an easy thing for us to do for a lot of us, you know, in the culture that we live in. So I really appreciated her book. I'm recommending it to every single one of my students. And the other book, this is a total shifting gears. The other book that I really wanted to quickly mention is called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And my sister actually bought this book for me. And it's a book that I have really cherished. You could read it cover to cover, but you don't need to. You can sort of one of these books that you can pick up and read a page For example, at nighttime, I'll read it to my boys, just 1 or 2 pages. And oftentimes they say, wait, I want you to keep reading, not because of the storyline, but just the simplicity and really the beauty in it. And I'll just take a quick opportunity to read 1 page. The illustrations are so beautiful in this book, but it said, "I've discovered something better than cake." "No, you haven't," said the boy. "I have," said the mole. "What is it?" "A hug. It lasts longer."
Oh.
Mm.
It's so beautiful. So I would highly recommend this book. It's a great book for like even just a Christmas present for any age. I would say any age can really enjoy this book. It's very sweet and sentimental.
Tell us the title of that again.
It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And it's by Charlie Macary. Actually, I might be saying that Macary or Mackesy. It's hard to tell because it's cursive. Yeah. It's
so
absolutely beautiful.
That's so fun. Boy, mole, fox, horse.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote down too.
You'll find it, I'm sure, if you just Google that.
That's cool. Thank you. I love a good book recommendation, especially something like that you can just, and I love being able to give books. If there's something that really resonated with you, then that's really special. So when you look forward to 2023 and what it holds in store for you, how do you visualize what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think, I'll start with this current year. What I really focused on this year was just growing personally, professionally, just seeing how growth would really unfold throughout the year. And that really has in so many amazing ways. And then when I look into the new year over the next 12 months, what I'm imagining really is continued growth, seeing how that can play itself out, and simultaneously really focusing on the best way. I guess it's hard for me to encapsulate it into just one word, but it's something along the lines of maybe working more efficiently or making sure that the time that I am, for example, spending working or with my family is true, like I'm truly present in those activities. I think nowadays, especially, social media is a double-edged sword, and there are so many different ways to distract ourselves. And I know for myself personally, I can get really distracted with trying to do a million different things, engaging in different ways with things. And so I think really being present and focusing will be something that's really helpful for this coming year. I think that's also something, maybe another way to describe it is like working smarter, not harder, which is a really important principle that I teach every single one of my students. Kind of like what I alluded to earlier. Frequently, we think we need to do 18 things to lose weight, when in fact, we're kind of missing the boat on taking advantage of some of the simplest things we can do. Just like I mentioned, water, right? Like I can't tell you how many people come to me and they say, okay, I'm ready to cut carbs. I'm ready to no longer eat dessert. And then I say, okay, but hang on, how much water are we drinking every day? If we're still running around chronically dehydrated, we're not really taking advantage of the low-lying fruit, right? And just getting some easy wins. So I think that's really what I see for myself this coming year, both in terms of work life as well as with professional life, like personal life. Where can we kind of work smarter instead of harder, focus in areas that are really going to move the needle in a really wonderful way. And part of that also includes kind of being selective, right? Like not necessarily saying yes to everything, and being picky with our involvements and how we're really choosing to, in what capacities we're focusing our attention.
I love that. Brilliant, simple advice, because the world does feel complicated and to be able to distill it down, like you said, to the low hanging fruit, to the things that motivate us to keep going and go on to the next step. That I think people love to hear that it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a quick example that's kind of silly, but it's very relevant for me. We moved into a new house a few months ago and we unpacked pretty quickly, but we didn't actually spend much time or money making our home cozy. No rugs, no artwork on the walls, no organizational systems, so we were functioning fine, but it wasn't really feeling cozy and really at home. So when Black Friday rolled around, I got the wild hair thinking, oh my goodness, we should take advantage and we should buy all these things. I actually just published a podcast on this a couple days ago. And really the spirit of overwhelm that can take over us, right? Like, oh, I need to buy all these things. It's Black Friday. I want to take advantage of all the deals. So suddenly I was looking for rugs for every room and measuring things. And then that got me down a rabbit hole of, but the closets are a mess. We need organizers. And I went down a rabbit hole with that. And then I was thinking, actually we need some drapes for the windows. We don't have the drapes for the windows. So now I'm going down a rabbit hole for that. And what was really funny was, snowball. And when we moved into the house, the microwave, there was a built-in microwave that was not working. And at first we were like, oh, that's annoying. We definitely need to get a new microwave. And after a couple of weeks, we said, you know what? Let's try to live without a microwave for the foreseeable future. Let's just experiment. And that's fine. It actually went surprisingly well. But once the colder weather started to, take place, I was thinking, I kind of really want a microwave. But here's the thing. When you think about Black Friday, a microwave is like the perfect thing to buy. I always think of electronics as being like the best thing for Black Friday. But with all the overwhelm that I had thinking of all these other things, drapes, rugs, closet organizers, I totally forgot about microwave. Right? So now there's no right or wrong here. I'm not telling everybody you need to go buy stuff right now. But what I'm saying is sometimes we can get so caught up with everything that we think we need that we're sort of missing the boat on like, if you just could pick one thing, what would that one thing be that would kind of move the needle more than anything else, right? And how easy it is to really just get caught up kind of distracting ourselves with other things. So that's a little real world example from me.
That's a great story. And it does highlight how you can go down rabbit holes and then forget about that one thing.
Yeah.
And so speaking of one thing, we're curious if you have one word or one phrase or one thought idea for 2023.
Yeah. Well, I would probably have to say presence, just really being present, as I mentioned earlier, with, whatever activity it is. If it's, if it's evening time and my kids are home, I don't want to be distracting myself with trying to respond to emails or texting or something, right? Like this is a very simple thing for me to be doing in terms of it's very easy for me to get distracted. And I've conscientiously really tried to say, no, I want to be present with them. I also really want to have time that I'm present without any inputs, right? Like without, I would say the majority of days I'm always looking for how can I be listening to a podcast or doing this while I'm, and multitasking is great. But there's also moments that I think we just need to be present with ourselves, quiet, and listen to ourselves too.
Very nice.
Definitely. So tell us how people that have listened to you now and are intrigued, how can they learn more about you, your work, and maybe what's coming up for you quickly in 2023?
Yeah. Well, probably the two best ways to find me and kind of get familiar with my work. One is through my podcast, Weight Loss for Dentists, and that can be found on any podcast platform. And the other way is, of course, my website. So just drnatanya.com. Lastly, I will mention Instagram. I love being on Instagram. I find it super fun. And I'm at Dr. Natanya. Lastly, if anybody lives in the Northeast or is planning to go to Yankee Dental Congress at the end of January, I'm going to be presenting 2 lectures on Saturday, January 28th. The first one is how to get off the dental treadmill. I'll be talking specifically about, how we can reduce burnout, how we can feel more in control of our experience in our day-to-day, practice lives. And then the second presentation later that day is on how to de-stress after a day of dentistry without gaining weight. And so we will specifically get into, what it means to process our stress without resorting to the common culprits of, drinking some alcohol or eating some food or, scrolling through our phones or watching Netflix. These are all different ways that we unwind. Not all of them are necessarily problematic. In fact, none of them need to necessarily be problematic unless they're holding us back from living the lives that we want to live. So how can we mindfully decide how we want to be, relaxing after a long, busy day when we're really stressed out? So if anybody wants to see me live in person, that's the next opportunity.
Awesome. And then you also have a offering to get the 5 secrets to permanent weight loss. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, absolutely. So, so many people ask me, I just want to kind of get started. I want to get my feet wet and kind of understand like how you do teach weight loss. And so what I've done is I've, put together like my top 5 tips, and it's the 5 secrets to permanent weight loss. You can sign up by going to drnatanya.com/start. And with that, I'll also sign you up to receive my weekly weight loss motivation tips to help people to lose weight in a smarter way, not working harder. So yes, that is a very easy way to also get connected with me.
Fantastic. Well, this has been very insightful, and I love how simple your information is, and knowing that we don't have to do these complicated things to permanently lose weight. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us here today in the live stream and with the world as you continue to help dentists with weight loss.
Thank you so much to both of you. This has been a real treat to be able to come on here today. And I love the work that both of you are doing. And, to be able to collaborate is a real honor. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will be back next week as we continue on with the 12 days of live streams.